it. You guys are already checking in with us. Tell us where you're from, okay? Tracy says hello from Asheville, North Carolina. We've got people from Ontario, Toronto, Texas, Florida, Illinois, Boston, Arizona, Massachusetts, Georgia, North Carolina, another Florida, someone from Philly. Why do you live in Philly? Just kidding. Okay, Chicago, Delaware, Massachusetts, Connecticut. All right. Got a lot of people with us. We're really, really excited today to do this webinar. I know this is a little unique. We typically try to stay very focused on the fitness industry and the pandemic and how we're all going to survive as a community and excel and improve. But I was very much personally taken aback by this situation. By the inequality of the George Floyd situation and also by the rioting and the responses to it, and how this happened during the pandemic and what type of lasting effect, positive lasting effect this can have on us. Now, I've got wonderful panelists with us. Tonight, Dane Robinson is going to be joining us. He joins us in about 5 minutes. He's one of the Daily Burn presenters, so he has a class he has to teach. So we'll get to see Dane all nice and sweaty. So I'm pretty excited about that. He's that's not right. Is that kind of sexist, Kia? I'm not sure here. We're allowed. We're girlfriends. We can do this. Dane is a former collegiate football champion. He's also been on other webinars with us at the University of Buffalo and several years in the AFL. Dane's focus is to drive a next level boutique studio experience inside Onelife Fitness in Atlanta, Georgia. Dane is also going to be leading a small group training certification for us. He's an unbelievable trainer. Now, Amira Polack is with us. She's one of a fellow board member with me of the Women in Fitness Association. And she actually runs the CEO and the founder of Struct Club, which provides structure for music-inspired fitness instructors. She also is one of the reasons that we're hosting this. She wrote a wonderful letter to the people she calls her wolf pack, of which I am one of them, to about 10,000 people. And I read the email and I really got inspired to run this webinar. Sheldon McBee is one of my favorite people. We actually worked together with Les Mills for many, many years, and he has a master's degree in human nutrition. He's an ACE certified personal trainer. He has over 18 years of experience in health and fitness, and he's an experienced international lecturer, presenter, business consultant, and he's also the training director of a facility. And we have the wonderful and beautiful Kia Williams, who has a master's degree in recreation and sports management, and she's managed fitness, wellness programs and facilities across the country. She works for Bossa Fitness, and she also runs her very successful and wonderful fitness podcast. So we have these terrific presenters with us. Again, you guys, we have a lot of people. We have almost 100 of you that are on right now, and we would like you to write questions in our chat box if you have anything to share. Now, if you've been on these webinars before, you know we jump right in because we have 45 minutes and we're going to try to capture a topic. Now, what happened with George Floyd has really divided black and white, color and Caucasian. It's created demonstrations and a violent response to police experience, and it's been very painful for our entire world. Dane is here. Hi, Dane. Good to see you. We were excited you were going to be all sweaty, so thank you for joining us. Yeah, really. Oh, it's nothing. It's nothing. But I'm going to start with Sheldon because Sheldon shared a very personal experience with his family members. And I'm going to let you take it away, Sheldon, please.
Yeah, well, thank you, Sarah. And first of all, I'd like to welcome everybody to this webinar, and I'm really appreciative that you all chose to take your time tonight to sit down with us and discuss something like this. Because, you know, as a Black man, I will say that the biggest thing right now is having just the support and the love is extremely important right now. Um, yeah, before this call, you know, Sarah, before this started, Sarah did ask, you know, have we had any personal experiences, anything like this? And I did. The George Floyd incident hit me at the heart. It did cause me an initial reaction of just a bit of fear and anger. And before I say anything else, I will say this. There are very good police officers that are out there. They mean very well. They take their oath and they serve well. Um, Now, that said, obviously, there are some that just might not. You know, there's racism that does exist. It is very real. And if that bleeds into law enforcement, that could be catastrophic. And we saw that with George Floyd, and not just him, many others before him. Uh, now, Sarah's asking of a personal story that I've had. There were two, my father and my brother. My father, unfortunately, was assaulted and falsely brought to police barracks due to being just a Black man in the wrong place at the wrong time. He was in Port Authority in New York, a hardworking man for Bell Atlantic Company for over 30 years. They were looking for somebody who looked like him. They saw him. They questioned him. He said, "That's not me." They handcuffed him, and they brought him to jail. Went to court, acquittals, with my dad being injured and nothing coming from it other than fear and anger with my family for many years, which took a long time to heal. My brother assaulted by moonlighting police officers for trying to break up the peace. My brother is a professional. He is a hospital executive, and was another situation where it's wrong, you know, a Black man being in the wrong place at the wrong time. Now, you know, I'm sure we're going to talk about it more, but having to go through that, it absolutely galvanized my family, and it made us sort of come together and make a choice. You know, do we kind of live in fear, or do we learn to be, you know, just be aware and be respectful citizens in this country? How do we respond? How do we react to this as Black people? But
But
I will.
you're a very positive person, Sheldon.
Yeah.
I don't see, from knowing you, I don't see any anger. I also don't see any fear of getting involved and being part of systems and businesses and opportunities. So how did your family deal with that, and why do you think you came across and ended up so to be such a positive, successful person?
Well, you know, it's just the way it was upbringing. Upbringing was the biggest thing. My mother's a very religious woman, and she brought us up in the church, and she taught us that we need to learn to be forgiving. Being forgiving was just a part of just our family culture. Now, something like this is very extreme, and it affects us because it's just very out in the open. And over time, especially with this George Floyd incident specifically, and I'm going to fast forward to today to answer your question. I noticed some things happening with this that were quite unique. I had people who were personally reaching out to me saying, "Hey, who are of different ethnicities, saying, Sheldon, you know, I'm thinking about you. How are you? How are you doing? Are you okay? Anything that I can do for you?" Not saying, "Hey, I understand, I get it." It was none of that. It was very different. I'm seeing a unique response to this right now in our industry, other industries, and it feels a bit more powerful to me. So I have become more hopeful today. And I personally believe that this will bring together people on the same side who want to find a solution to this while we're having a call like tonight, and we'll isolate those people who choose to divide and not see people as the same. They will start to stand out. And I hope that is what comes out of this. But I hope that answered your question, but that's just where my
You
mindset.
did. You really did. And and we were chatting before we got on the webinar, and I had explained a situation that happened to me. I deal a lot with our marketing, and we got a question from Toby, and Toby talked about how do we create a culture. And I really believe a lot of it's marketing. I feel a lot of it, we need to include people of color in our marketing. We do this constantly with SCW. And interestingly enough, you still get a blind eye. We did these posters, silk banners that we hold at the conferences. And we've done these for years. And just about a year, actually it was about 2 years ago, one of my friends, she's African American, she came up to me and goes, Sara, I want you to look around the room. And I looked around the room. This was probably 2.5 years ago at a California Mania conference. And I looked around the room and I went, what? She goes, there is not one person of color in your silk banners. I was raised in a home where my dad, we had a nuclear-free zone sign on our home. We did the first recycling. We had to drive 2 hours to drop off the newspapers to recycle. I licked envelopes for Bobby Kennedy. I mean, I went to marches. I mean, I was raised, that's the way I was raised. And I was ashamed of myself for those banners. And we went back immediately and we did a whole array of we call them our diversity banners. And we did it. And it's like, you guys, we need to create a culture. Now, the two women that we've got on this panel are very inspiring to me. I got a personal phone call from Kia, who said, and I love her, she goes, I want to lead the panel. And I'm like, you know what? And for a second there, I was like, you go, girl. And I'm like, well, maybe. And I thought, no, she can't do that. But Kia, share with us the sense and the ownership you have and the experience that you've shared with us about social media and expressing yourself.
Sure. Sheldon, thank you for sharing something so personal and touching. It truly is triggering for some people. I'm not at the point in my life where I'm comfortable or confident enough to talk about those types of things that have happened to me because it still hurts. Yeah, it's still very painful. But I do want to remind people that I too have a family. I have living parents who want me to see another birthday. I have a living grandmother who is so confused by my job. She's like, I guess she's at the gym making people run laps again. I don't know, because you know, fitness is not quite a profession quite yet, yeah? But my grandmother, who I'm so close with, she's so concerned with me when I travel for work, which is a lot of what we do, especially with SCW conferences. And I'm doing absolutely what I love, but my grandmother I know has lived through the ugliest parts of history. And sometimes talking to her, she feels that the struggle is amplified for me. And she knows that no matter how much she loves me, no matter how much servitude I put out into the world to generate good karma, no matter how many degrees I have, no matter how strong I am as a person, I'm still vulnerable to discriminatory acts and institutional racism. And it truly is exhausting, you know, having to show up at your best, having to show up with a bright smile on your face when behind everything, it hurts so badly. But Sara, in my profession and what I do, having a presence on social media is very important for staying connected. And I get a lot of interaction when it's all, you know, butterflies, sunshine, kisses. But at some points when I want to be honest and vulnerable, I start losing followers. Not that followers stroke my ego or make me happy, but what it makes me realize is maybe one, people just refuse to hear the conversations, and two, people refuse to see the real me. They forgot, somehow I made them comfortable enough that they forgot that I'm a Black woman living in America. And that's so unfortunate because I truly do pour my heart and soul into what I do and the services that I deliver to other people. And it's heartbreaking, but it's also inspiring at the same time. Why? I don't know, because I'm a change maker and I'm gonna make you see me and I'm gonna make you hear my voice. So I think is that the question you asked?
Yes, yes. And I think you share your voice with people. You share, I got like chills. You share your voice. I listen to your podcast. I really, really enjoy it. And I feel very inspired by it. And I really appreciate you being on. This is your second webinar, and Kia also presented at Mania. So that's very rewarding and inspiring for us. Amira, you wrote that email to the Wolf Pack that went out to 10,000 people, and I was reading it. And what I'd like you to focus in on is Amira talked about George Floyd. She didn't talk about the violence and the rioting at all in her letter. And it really, it captured me, and it was a voice that I listened to. And I wonder, Amira, why did you choose not to talk about the violent reaction?
Absolutely. And at first, I just want to also, acknowledge Kia, Sheldon, for sharing. These are hard things to share, especially when people have reacted negatively to them. It's extremely uncomfortable. It's exposing. And thank you to Sara for bringing us together. And thank 86 people right now I'm seeing in the chat for showing up. And first off, I just think that's amazing, and wanted to acknowledge and thank everybody for that. So for me, when I initially learned about all of this that was going on yet again, I just knew the very first thing that I had to do, I just really thought about it from a personal perspective, from what people are feeling at a human, even survival level, and just think about who it is that we needed to show up for at every level of our company. People on our team, people on our extended team, partners, people in our customer base, people in our broader community who are, free users to our app, but they may not be paying customers, investors and co-owners. We have color, we have Black stakeholders at every level of our company. And so for me, as we're at you may not have heard, most of you probably haven't heard of Struct Club at all, which is okay, but they expect me to show up. They expect me to say something, because I have named of our 3 core values at the company, and Toby Klein put in a great question about how do we institutionalize this in our fitness industry. I know we have a question about this later. So this doesn't even happen in the first place, is that we've named inclusion as a core value from the very start of our company. And this is why we even show up as a company in the first place. Everybody should be welcome to fitness. And so I'm knowing, seeing everything that's going on, that's just not how everybody feels. And kind of like you stated in the description of this conversation, we keep hearing, we're all in this together. All of us are in this together. And then we see something like this and we realize that's not true. So firstly, before addressing kind of the economic issues, and there will be time to go into, it's not to say that we don't have members in our community who have been affected by kind of, whether it's police violence or more, I guess, destructive forms of protesting, studio owners having their windows smashed in. I'm going to address that later. That's next. But first, I need to make sure people know I will protect them. From a human standpoint, that's what we're working to do. So that's
and that is incredibly valuable, that maybe the violence and the rioting brought attention to this situation, but it was the situation itself that was wrong. And that is so important. It's important also because during pandemics, during plagues, historically, I keep looking at what happened in previous plagues, because now we've got to wait until we can get out of this. We're nowhere near out of this. And during those plague times, if you look at the change that has occurred, there's always been positive change that has come out of plagues. The most recent plague we had, we ended up with actual plumbing, with streets that were paved. with new medications and cleanliness that was brought into effect. It also increased transportation that affected the trade. There was trade brought in from India that there were silks that were suddenly available, and traditionally men could only purchase the silks and wear the silks. Well, because of the increased trade and that the revenue that these traders needed, they allowed women to purchase and women to wear these silks. And this actually helped to fuel the suffragist movement for women. So during a time of plague, people have time to watch the news, to pay attention, and frankly, temperatures are elevated, and so it does bring about change. Dane, welcome, and thank you for joining us. So I'm so pleased to have you here. Share with us your experience and your thought about being involved in this webinar.
I want to address just one thing, in the sense that, you know, in my other aspirations, you know, I'm a coach. I'm a coach to fitness professionals. I'm a coach to athletes and everything. And I always like to address things that are kind of like straight on. You know, to go back to what Amira was talking about, there's, you know, over 80 people in here. Please acknowledge, guys, that we're talking, that we're having the conversation. Honestly, when we start, you know, getting into the details of who should be moderating and everything there, we're missing the point, where we're not getting into the fact that, you know, if you have somebody like Sara, who is a woman of a Caucasian woman, you know, that is wanting to at least start a conversation, I think those are the things that where we have to just acknowledge the fact that she may never understand what we've had to do, what we've had to endure. It's unfortunate the fact that for us, for Kia, Sheldon, Amira, for all of us as Black people, that this is not a new conversation. It's just a new conversation with different people that are ready to listen there. And those are the things where, just like, and let's equate it to fitness, because something that we can all get around. When the first time you do a burpee for a minute or something like that, it's uncomfortable, it hurts, you don't want to do it. But then after a while, then it's kind of like, all right, I got to get better at this. All right, you know what? I'm kind of like okay with this there. This is the same thing. The way we go about this conversation is just like flexing a muscle. It's just like conditioning the body. We're conditioning our emotions, we're conditioning our thoughts, our understanding, our consciousness to be able to have this conversation consistently so that action happens. I'm not gonna lie to everybody, I'm a little bit skeptic on what goes from here from now. Everybody posted their black boxes on Instagram or Facebooks. Awesome. What now? Because history shows us is that we have the conversation and it stops. We have the conversation and people move on in their lives. I want everybody to, from the Black community, to number one, again, understand that there's new people in the conversation, and that we want to be able to include people in the conversation that want to know and have some sort of comprehension, knowing that he can never understand. Totally okay. But that also being said is that for any of our peers that are white, that are listening now and everything, that's the biggest action you can do, is just listen. And it doesn't matter who leads the conversation. I know I didn't create SCW, I didn't create WATERinMOTION, but it's our leaders that have a platform that are able to open up the conversation. And that's where the biggest things are in this all. So I don't mean to get long-winded, but I could talk about a couple of different things, but I want to address that one specific avenue. It doesn't matter who leads the conversation, we're talking.
But it's the change that we're looking to see happen. And it, like you said, it's revisiting this conversation over and over again. But hopefully the awareness keeps growing, even though it's slow, it keeps growing. And that's where I did ask Sheldon, I said, how did you capture and retain this positive attitude? And what type of things, Sheldon, are you talking to your girls about, your kids?
Yeah, so for me, the biggest thing that I talk about with them, and we've recently had this conversation just 2 nights ago about what's really going on here. They're quite young, 11 and 8. But in our house, it is about inclusiveness, and that is really something that's important for us. That we try to celebrate differences in other people versus versus anything else, essentially. And so that's just the culture we chose to have in our house. My personal belief is that when it comes to fitness and the fitness industry, the industry that we are in, we are at a very unique opportunity right now to actually defy some of the things that Dane is actually putting right between our eyes. And that is that when something this dramatic happens, sometimes we will have this immediate uproar, and then things will start to what we consider like normalized. But we have a unique opportunity to keep the momentum going in the right direction right now by choosing to come together as an industry and saying if there's one or two things that we can all stand together on, what is that really looking like? And one of the things that I personally believe in is just that, and that is inclusiveness. We welcome new people to our industry. We welcome new people no matter who you are, what you come from, what your ethnicity is. We welcome you. Whether you are an athlete, whether you're someone new to group fitness, you are a new client to training, are you someone new to one of our conferences? It is something that we have a unique opportunity right now to shift in culture. It's one of the things I was hoping to really express in tonight's webinar. It is something that we really try to live and breathe in our house, at least. And I think something like tonight is one of the great steps to start this kind of conversation. But again, we have to continue it. We have to continue to take action and not just talk. And I think it's a matter of rebranding what we consider is the fitness industry beyond just the art and science of it, and that is the culture of it. And this is part of it.
And what's nice about the culture of fitness is this currently, the situation we're in, we're always talking about community. And you and I know this, Sheldon. We lived in a community of it's a tribe. And I remember going to my first Les Mills meeting, and I'm sitting there, and there were 48 agents, and I'm the only female agent worldwide. And it's group fitness. So I feel, of course, I felt so comfortable. But you march in there and you go and do these things. And I hear them talking about tribe, and I'm like, honey, MOT, you're, a member of the tribe. It's like for Jewish, I'm Jewish, that they talk about. And it's just interesting. And I think what you're saying, Sheldon, is absolutely right. We need to build a community. We have to try our hardest not to, at least with World War II, what we always hear is, never forget. And it happens over and over and over again with prejudice. But hopefully there's one or two people that are affected. And how can we build that community? And Ikia, I'm gonna ask you to share here. How can we as a fitness industry continue to plug away and build a community that's more accepting, that's more understanding?
Absolutely. And I'm speaking only to my experience, my expertise, and research that I've done and field analysis that I've done. I don't claim to be the holder of the antidote to everything. That's not it. But I hope that's something that we've researched and that we apply, that we give you all today, something will land and something will be of value to you. But I've done a lot of research in my business on ethical decision making and ethical problem solving. So the first step is truly to gather unbiased facts, even when you don't want to hear it. Unbiased facts, stick to the facts. Ask questions and shut up and listen. Yeah, if we be quiet long enough, people will start talking to us and tell us their real feelings. I'm a huge advocate on surveying and assessing and getting out in the field. But of course, there are some biases that come with that. So we want to be cognitive and conscious of that too. the population that we're surveying? Are we truly being accessible? Are we able to reach them and giving them the opportunity to truly respond? Ask yourself, what benefits and what harms will each course of action that we produce in our services or what we're offering, and which alternatives will lead to the best overall experience that we're trying to give to people? So stay the course and stay focused. Oftentimes there are, outside interactions, some distractions and everything, but stay true to what the root cause or your why is. So the title of this is, what is the title of this? Helping us heal. We understand that we can't heal anything, not a disease, not a plague, not anything, until we address the root cause. Otherwise, we're just bandaging and medicating things that will come up again later on. But also ask yourself always, what moral rights do the affected parties have in my decision-making and the service that I'm providing? Which course of action best respects those rights of those people? And I'm not talking about just a specific group of people right now. I want you to expand your horizon and look at the population at large that you serve in your population. And also ask yourself, or even investigate into, who's not being reached by your services, and truly understand why that is. And can we do better? That's a question that the group fitness instructors that I supervise, we always ask ourselves every day. Can we do better? And the answer is always yes. But as Sheldon mentioned, how? And why not now? Let's get on it, let's do it. Another point that I will give is, which course of action treats everyone the same? Yeah? Except there are some exceptions, probably not in fitness, where there are morally justifiable reasons not to, but we won't get into that on this forum. And do your actions not show favoritism or discrimination? We want to make sure that we avoid those things at all costs. And which course of action advances for the common good of the people that you serve, yeah? And we know that our broadcast has expanded due to COVID. We've all pivoted and gotten our services online. We're global now. We're reaching people. I'm in Colorado and I led a certification with people from China and from Greece in it. And I'm thinking, wow, how do I get to know these people more to make sure that I'm truly serving their common good and what they need to get from me and my messages? And what course of action develops moral virtue in what you deliver? That's honesty, courage, compassion, generosity, integrity, fairness, yes, self-control, and prudence are all examples of virtues.
Now, Dane, I saw you nodding your head very vigorously, I might add. So can I ask you to jump in here? I was listening to what Kia was saying, and one of the things I keep thinking about is we need leaders. We need great personal trainers. We need great instructors. We need to hire managers and directors. And we need to provide business loans to people of color that want to start the businesses, putting these people in a position of leadership, letting, whether you're female, Jewish, Black, Asian, making sure there's leaders that people can look up to and people can listen to, and that there's that inclusion and equality.
Yeah, a lot of the points Kia touched upon, I thought just was the fact of just like logical progression. When you don't have the answer, you just have to work on things that are unbiased, and that kind of is like your epicenter for everything to be kind of built off of at the end of the day. The things that allow us to move this forward is with action. And again, I continue to put it out there, the fact that it's gonna be uncomfortable in the beginning. I'm listening and I'm reading at the same time about I don't know what words to say. I don't know how to go about it. Just the act of listening. For us, that we have a platform, you have an audience. I think Kia talked about the difference between, followers, but she has an audience. We all have an audience that are listening to us. You know, when we talk about best health practices and best fitness practices, and even when we're talking about real things in our world, is that how do we really assume that avenue of leadership and being able to, again, have that message out there and be unashamed about it? Because I think for a lot of us, and including myself, is the fact that it's never been, I feel one way that that's never been in the forefront of my mind about the color of my skin. It's just been there. It's just been there, you know? But now, again, it's at everybody's centered attention. And I just wanted to make sure that it stays there. Not that I'm asked to be treated any better than the next person, but I'm just asking to be treated as equal in that avenue. I'm asking the fact that everybody be excellent. I wear that on my chest proudly, that everybody be excellent, especially in our community. But it's really being able to just unbiasedly look at the facts of what's been happening centuries, years, months, weeks, days ago, and then apply the information from there so that we can have structured, continuous action to where it doesn't become awkward anymore. We don't have a problem saying, you know, listen, like me as a white person, me as a black man, black woman, and society, we don't, like, it's just communication. The same way we have no problem talking about like gender roles in society, you know. But again, I'll kind of go the same avenue with Kia, like it's a different conversation. But we have no problem talking about, well, men this, women that, you know. We should have the same type of fluidity in our conversation when we start talking about black and white.
That it's not the first thing you see is color. You see the person. You see the person first. And Amira, you were nodding earlier, and you talked a little bit about the inspiration you had to write that letter to the wolf pack. And then how do you see this being able to be followed through? How do you see the transition now? Okay, it was wonderful. Everybody posted everything black like on Tuesday, like Kia mentioned. And then what happens on Wednesday? And what happens today? And how do we carry it on? And how do we see it through?
Would it be great if I had all of the solutions? Actually, though, I first off, I wanted to just mention that, but I wanted to wait my turn. I'm not black myself, so I don't want people to go, I'm not claiming that. I do get the comment that I am ethnically confusing. So just as a fact, my mom's from the Philippines and my dad is from a Jewish family in the Bronx. So that's just my hereditary background. And it actually, I was sharing with this team here ahead of the conversation that made me, knowing that we need to center Black voices, knowing that we need to share their stories, made me feel kind of like double check as to whether I wanted to accept the invitation to speak today, to give another seat to another Black voice. But to that, and to some of the comments that I'm seeing in the thread, it takes all of us to show up for each other. And so with that, as one foot in, like the Asian American world, one foot in the white woman world, we need to stand up for each other and everybody. It's not somebody who, for those who are marginalized, it can't only be their job to like dig them, bring themselves up. So firstly, then bridging that to Sarah's questions of like, what do we do on Wednesday and Thursday and Friday? And to some of the really good points that Dane, Sheldon, and Kia brought up, which are, first off, there's this personal discomfort that we need to just check really quickly. And it reminds me of when we're coaches in our studio environments to our clients, how often do we hear ourselves say, all right, it's time to get uncomfortable. You might feel the discomfort, or it's going to feel a little bit painful, but this is how we grow. It is time for us to take our own advice when it comes to those statements of telling everybody, hey, look, it's good to feel, this is a positive feeling, this is positive growth. And recognize that in ourselves and to start taking our own advice on that front. So, and then the second thing is that I'm seeing here is another barrier, even to taking action, is being afraid to be wrong. Well, remember that first class that you ever taught, and hopefully, I mean, I didn't do this, and I'm glad I did not. record, did you record that video? If you would go and look back at that, you'd be like, oh man, I did all these things wrong. I wish I should have done this, that, X, Y, and Z. And it can just completely withhold you from acting in the first place. You know what? You're going to be wrong, and that's going to happen, and that is okay. And that is how we learn, and that is how we grow. So just taking a step in the right direction is just a step. Saying something is where it starts. And so then I guess when it comes to, the company and organizationally, like considering and thinking about this, back to the point of what are your core values? And I know for some people, it just feels really cheesy and it's like, oh, these marketing words on a wall, flowery culture, like what is all of that? Just, you got to name what you stand for. And it's a very clarifying, in times of grayness, it's a very clarifying framework to say, these are above all our North Stars. It's not saying we do this all the time. It's saying we aspire to do this. We aspire to be authentic, impactful, and inclusive. And those are, an example of our core values framework, where everything that flows from that, our hiring processes, our marketing processes, how we do outreach to funnel for customers, investors, partners, that informs each step of the process and how we diversify the channels that we market to and land the opportunities to. So it starts with that framework of assessment and creating that framework that in some way, shape, or form, please, I'm just calling to everybody, name inclusion, name diversity in your core values as an organization. And you might not be the leader, you might not be the CEO, and that's okay, because you're working directly with those people. And I really care about what my team thinks and how they feel. They're going to be accountable to you. So say something.
And that's great. That's wonderful, Amira. We're getting a little bit close to time. Sheldon, I'm going to ask you to start by giving us a message that we can take away from this conversation that is not an easy conversation to have.
No, this is not an easy conversation, and it's really hard to come up with anything that's a real tangible answer to any of this right now, but it's important that we start speaking about this and that we have a voice. But to put my stamp on all of this, just understand that we all have different opinions on things, and we might not agree with other people's opinions on certain things, but in the end, I think Kia says something that's quite powerful for me, and that is, in the end, the things that you do and act on in life, is it ethically right? Whether you agree with the way you move forward or not, was it ethically right, the decision you just made? And if you do that, you will create a world that is much more, that is better to live in, essentially. And there will be less caustic feel, and it will be, and we can move together forward. And I will say another thing with this. It is really important that everything starts just at home. If you have your family, your children, your mother, your brother, your sister, it really starts at home. If you have a culture in your house that includes, it is inclusive and respectful and is about being ethically right, this is where everything starts. And so I just want to share that message. And for those of you in the fitness industry, remember this: we are an industry where people, they hear us, they admire our ability to inspire them. And so we should come together and have a unified message that says that we will also be inclusive. So that's what I have to say, Sara, on that.
And I really like that. It has to be inclusive. We've got Amira, very diverse backgrounds, and I think that's very, very important. Kia, would you like to share with us, please?
I would. Thank you. I provided some links to the information to support the information that I provided today in the chat box, if you all want to check it out. When we're talking about human rights and is it ethically right, human rights are inherent to all human beings, okay? Whatever their nationality, whatever their place of residence, sex, national, ethnic orientation, color, religion, language, whatever. And this is what's coming from the UN. I'm not making it up, all right? So if you want to challenge that, take it up with the UN. But I hope today we were able to help further the much needed focus on racial equality in the fitness industry. That's our profession on this panel, and how it impacts every single aspect of business, of service, of life as we know it, okay? Everyone has blinders. As much as you want to say that you're woke and aware, everyone has blinders. So it's very important that you surround yourself, as Amira so beautifully says, surround yourself with a diverse group of people and allow them the voice to speak to you and allow your ears to receive the message from them. Yes, all of you in this chat box, I presume that we are all decision makers and change makers in our organization. So be more curious, be more inquisitive, yeah, of inclusivity, accessibility, what that truly means, true equality for the people who we serve and those surrounding us. Be proactive, be preventative, my friends. Lean into the direction of goodness and progressive change. It's not going to be comfortable, it's not going to be easy. But as Amira said, let's all show up together. How about that?
And Dane, thank you for joining us, and thank you for jumping off. Were you on a bike tonight, or what were you doing?
I was leading a half capacity group inside of Syria, obviously here in Georgia, where we're open with our fitness and everything, but a socially distant class with a lot of music. And usually I would be in a different uniform, but I chose to speak a message of Black excellence, of unity, of ownership. I think those speak to a lot of different avenues, you know, for all of us at this point in time. But I think where, you know, again, just kind of talking in conversation with you all and also conversations in the chat, you know, how do we consistently make sure that, you know, yes, racism is a learned avenue. It's learned. Nobody grows up, you know, just pops out the womb and like, I just hate people of color. You know, it's learned. I think how Sheldon spoke about where if we become the majority in the sense that there is no room for this anymore, and it also we isolate those people that are refuse to change their minds, refuse to see something different, and honestly, then you feel sorry for those people. That, and again, they're in a small minority avenue of this. But I want us all to continue to take action, get through the awkward, uncomfortable avenues of where we go from here. But it's just progressive steps, and I thank everybody for spending time tonight to just either listen, be active in the conversation. Sara, thank you for providing a platform to have us speak, and everybody here, the panelists, for being able to shed knowledge in there, because we're not the only people that have something to say, but you've been able to bring us together. So thank you for continuing the conversation past a black square on Tuesday that can continue to make sure that this doesn't dissipate.
We thank you, Dane. We need to make a change. We need to open up leadership opportunities. We need to be more accepting of inclusion. It's interesting. Somebody wrote in the chat box, like, I am a white woman and I feel ashamed. And it's interesting. I'm sitting here and I'm like, should I even be here? And I feel like I should be here because I care, and this is something we should do. And all of you, Kia, Amira, Sheldon, Dane, thank you for joining in this conversation. I do want to thank Adam Budakovali. He's the one who helped put everything together for us. We are going to post this on Facebook, and I think it'll be too long for Instagram, but LinkedIn as well. Because we feel that this message is so important for the world, and it's not just about putting it on our webinar site. I'm going to share the screen real quickly to be able to show you guys what we have coming up. Our next webinar that we have is actually going to be on Sunday, which is streaming your classes online for profit, which is important for everyone, how to do it cost effectively and stream your classes. Because the same way we need to remember and we need to make sure that we continue the message and keep listening and keep including, is we have to learn from this pandemic, and we're never going backwards. We're never going backwards. Things are online now. And then on Tuesday, we also have automating online personal training session with a lot of experts coming on. So I'm just going to stop sharing it right now. I'm going to thank you all. Remember to go to Dane's small group training certification. Yay. So thank you. Check out Struct Club, everyone. See Sheldon at our next live stream mania. He's a star. And be sure to tune into Kia's podcast. It's exceptional. So thank you all for joining us. You guys have a good night. And thank you for allowing us to come into your home and share this very important message. Good night, everybody.